I'm doing great. What do you go by? I go by Nathan.
Oh, okay. I mean, my real name is William, so you can call me William if you want.
Okay. Nice to meet you, William.
Yeah, yeah. Nice to meet you as well.
Um, well, I hope you're having a stellar Wednesday. Uh, I have been like following some of your content for a while, and I've been taking TFT a bit more seriously this season,
hmm
or I guess a set. And yeah, I just wanted to check things out and see if I could like learn more.
Yeah, absolutely. How long have you been playing TFT?
Not too long actually. Like I played a bit of set 9
hmm
and then I kind of took a break for like two sets and I played like about like 2.5 weeks of this set before I went to Iceland, like over the break.
hmm
So I think in total, like maybe 6 to 7 weeks continuously, if you
hmm
integrated everything.
hmm Yeah, it's
Yeah, so
really
I guess not
yeah,
too long.
yeah. Not
Yeah.
very long at all, I would say for
Yeah.
sure. And like, what general elo have you been or like rank?
Uh that's interesting. So like I'm plat two-ish right now, I think, or three.
Uh-huh.
And like previously I've been anywhere from like I think I started the season like in bronze or something. I guess everyone
hmm
does, right?
Yeah, yeah. Full
Yeah,
reset.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too familiar how the ranking works in this game, but like I feel like the games in Platinum have been a little bit sweatier. Like people
hmm
play more meta lines,
hmm
and it's harder for me to figure out my mistakes now. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, no, they
Yeah.
basically at the start of every set now, they just do a full reset. Though it's kind of like they reset your rank, but they
Uh-huh.
don't I don't know exactly if they don't reset your MMR or if they like do a soft reset on your MMR, but like if you were challenger the previous set, you'll climb a lot faster than, if you were bronze the previous set.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So, yeah, but you do kind of have to climb back up but usually it's pretty quick to get to your previous rank.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you look at like the op.gg in this game? I'm not like super familiar.
The
Like,
one most people use is either lolchess,
okay,
or yeah, it's lolchess.gg or tactics.tools. Also has like a player search. That's what most people use, tactics.tools or lolchess.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like I guess the question I have is like, do you like think there's any value in looking at like my match history or anything, or like do you think we should just dive in?
Yeah, we should probably just dive in.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, like, I think you can gain a little bit of a just understanding, like, you can see kind of like what comps you're playing. But
sounds good.
now that like
I
augment
liked it really
sets
briefly. Yeah.
don't exist anymore. Like it's hard to get like a complete context. Okay, so yeah, only 93 games played this set, so really not that many played so far. Then yeah,
Hmm.
I can just generally get a sense for like what comps you've been playing. Like the recent 20 shows, like that gives a little bit of sense of like lines you're playing towards or like units. So you have a lot of Nunu, Elise, like I don't know, maybe you're playing a decent amount of like Twitch games or just experiment games in general. I don't know, Urgot perhaps. But yeah, then I can just see some of the stuff that you have
Yeah.
been playing. Chembaron, Zyrelia,
Uh,
Augment game,
I
Urgot,
don't know, I
Triss
like
game.
playing whatever seems exciting that game.
Uh
It's like
huh.
is like my trend so far.
I mean, that's a good way to do it. At the end of the day, it's a game where you're meant to have fun. So yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah,
that's what it's all about. So yeah, for sure. Awesome. Well, okay, so you got the fundamentals overview, right? Can you
yeah,
pull that up?
yeah.
Okay. So let me share screen. This is so what I basically did is I made like a Google Slides
Hmm.
and just put down everything, like all of my opinions. I guess not 100% because there's still some stuff sitting in my brain, but a lot of my strong opinions about fundamentals in TFT, just kind of like what they are, how I think TFT should be played in general. TFT is not very much a game where there's just kind of like rules. It's very much not like always do this thing or never do this thing. It's very much
Hmm.
a game of like grays and figuring out when it makes sense to do something or when it makes sense to not do something. But there still
Yeah.
are a lot of general guidelines that you can follow, and it's either ways of thinking about things that I think are helpful or just general things to keep in mind. Where it's like, yeah, maybe not 100% of the time do this, but 90% of the time do this, and like the I think like at your level, it's good to just kind of learn some kind of like rules and like strong ideas, and then once you get even better at the game, then you can start figuring out like how to break them and when not to do certain stuff. Um,
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
awesome. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, yeah, loud and clear, dude.
Okay, awesome. So these are all of the things that, in my mind, are fundamentals in TFT. I have a few slides on each of them. What we'll do is I'll just go to the slide, talk about my thoughts, and then you can ask any questions about the stuff I talked about, or just anything in general. It's a pretty long Google Slides. Honestly, we probably
Uh-huh.
won't make it through the full thing if we do a lot of back and forth talking. But at the end of the day, it's just kind of
Sure.
like meant to be a jumping off point for discussion about TFT and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If we don't make it through the full thing, then I can just send you the link and you can look through the last few slides yourself. But
Hmm.
feel free, if you have questions when I'm saying stuff, I definitely like the biggest thing is just being able to talk about these concepts in general. So
Yeah, yeah.
let's hop into it. All right. So first thing, we're gonna start with making econ. So first big concept that is important as far as econ is that econ snowballs. Making your first 10 gold gives you 1 gold on the way to making 20 gold. Making 20 gives you 2 gold on the way to making 30 gold. This means that
Hmm.
making your first 10 is really, really important because not making that first gold, that first interest threshold might sometimes mean not only are you losing out on that 1 gold, but you're losing out on, potentially it's snowballing you into 20, 30, 40 gold. Not making that first gold can end up being worth 2, 3, 4, 5 gold down the line. The kind of guideline that I like to go by is try to make 10 gold by 2-3. This is like the really hard one where like I feel like this is like a hard guideline. Like you should be doing this very, very frequently. The only times when I'm not
Hmm.
making 10 gold by 2-3. And are you familiar? Like if I say 2-3, do you have a good idea of like where that is in the game? Because I know like I don't know, some people
2-1 is when you choose their first augment, right?
right. Yeah.
And
So
then
two
2-3 is like 2 after that?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so two
Uh-huh.
three is right before the first carousel, or I guess yeah, there's no first carousel anymore. So yeah, like the stage 2 carousel. So yeah, like
Mhm.
making 10 gold before the first carousel, I think is very, very helpful. Um, and the 20 gold by 2-5, I think, is like more loose. Like if you're playing more for econ, I think this is fine. If you're playing more for just like leveling and trying to win fights, I think you don't have to make this one. But the 10 gold by 2-3, I think, is really, really important to be making most of your games. What oftentimes this it means that you should commit to an early game comp by 2-3. Something that I did when I was learning TFT that really hurt me is, I would hold so many units on my bench. This set, it would be like I'm holding like Zyra pair, and maybe I can play around sorcerers, but I'm holding like a Trundle pair as
Mhm.
well. I'm holding like a Draven pair as well. I'm holding all these pairs on my bench saying, oh, I could maybe fit a 2-star unit in because, 2-star units are really, really powerful in the early game.
Right.
But making gold is also really, really, really helpful. So I think by 2-3, I just want to have committed to some kind of an opener. And that doesn't mean that I have to commit to, that comp. If I start the
Yeah.
game off with, like a Maddie 2, I'm like, okay, it's very likely I'm going to play like a Maddie, a Steb, and a Trundle on my board and just play around this kind of Enforcer Bruiser opener. But that doesn't mean I
Sure.
have to play like Snipers or Enforcers or anything. I could slam a Shojin onto Maddie and play that into like a Dominators game, some kind of AP line. But just
Yeah.
committing to that early like Enforcers, Bruiser comp allows me to then sell off all the rest of my stuff, make 10 gold, make 20 gold, and then start snowballing my econ. And that's the last piece of it is very often selling units that you're immediately not going to play. Oftentimes, I think a lot of people get baited when they get dropped like a pair of 3 costs early. You get dropped like this set, like maybe a couple of like gangplanks early is a good example of a unit where like gangplank reroll isn't that great, and like you'll get 2 gangplanks early, you hold them on your bench and say, oh man, this could be a gangplank too, like I could play around that. But holding onto
Right.
those gangplanks, you end up skipping econ threshold. You end up, if it's like your first round of minions, maybe you hold 2 GPs over like holding a bunch of other 1 costs that you're much more likely to 2-star because it's the early game, you are much lower level. So in
Mhm.
general, I'm not looking to hold like 3 cost pairs early, and I'm not looking to hold hold units that I'm not immediately going to play. So if I have a unit on my bench and I'm not thinking of playing it like next level, oftentimes I'm selling that unit. If it's level 4 and I'm thinking like, eventually on 6 I could get this in. Probably I'm not going to do that. Probably I'm just going to sell that unit or find a way to play that unit and sell something else. So that's the first thing. Any questions on any of this stuff?
Well, this seems really reasonable. I try to play for like the next in and like if I'm doing family reroll, right? Like
Hmm.
you usually go some pit fighters later on, but like it would make sense to not hold like GP there, right?
Yep,
Like if you're like trying to get Vi's early or Violets early.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it seems very reasonable.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think pretty reasonable and yeah. Okay, so this is like a very straightforward example. I have this Rebels plus Bruiser opener with the Rebel +1. All this
Huh?
stuff on the right side of my bench. Like, I mean, I can hold on to the Trundle still, but like I'm not interested in holding a Violet pair and a Draven pair. They're pairs I could hit a 2-star unit, but I have a good enough opener right now, so I'm always going to sell these guys, make 10 here at 2-3, and be pretty happy about it. And then down the
Hmm.
line, I can end up playing 5 Rebel, be happy about it. So yeah, this makes sense. I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, I actually have a question.
Yeah.
I've seen people. I mean, I guess it depends on like how much gold you get, like if it's like a gold opener or something. But like
Hmm.
I've seen people make like 10 gold even like before the first like
Yeah.
augment, right? Like,
Hmm. Yeah. Before
and
tier
then
one.
they kind of just like they kind of like try a lose streak or like wish wash their way through like stage two.
Hmm.
Like, is that reasonable or like should you hold like some kind of pair usually, or is it like a
Yeah.
play style
So
kind of thing?
Yeah, so like most things in TFT, it's not an always or never. The things
Yeah.
that I like to consider when like talking, like thinking about that, like you're talking about, um, I usually just try to say like, okay, how much do I actually value these units that I'm
Hmm.
potentially holding on to? Usually, that's a kind of like a proxy for like early game strength. So, for example, like if my first minion drop is like an Ezreal from Orb, and maybe then in my shop I pick up like a Lux or something, and then like my second orb drop is like, I don't know, like a Nami or something like that, and I've got like
Hmm.
4 gold, and then I have some other like random 1 costs on my bench that I could sell. Like if this is my spot and I'm like 6 or I'm 4 gold and I could sell all of this stuff to make gold, or actually even better example, say I'm 1 gold in this spot here, and theoretically I could sell the Nami, the Ezreal, the 2 Trundles, and the Violet here to make 10 gold. I don't want to do that because Ezreal is just such a strong early game unit. Academy is so strong. Um, the um, the Rebel opener is really strong as well. Nami can even fit on this board as well. So like this is a lot of stuff that like I feel like there's actually a very high chance that I'm going to play around Ezreal. That I've eventually maybe in my next shop I end up finding Irelia. I can play like a Rebel
Hmm.
opener. I can play around this kind of stuff and have like a really really good early game. So like this is an example where like Ezreal is a unit that I prioritize a lot early. Just if I get Ezreal from an orb drop, I'm really really happy because he's strong early.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, he's very nice. Yeah, it's just the Rebel opener is good, the Academy opener is good, and like you can even end up in like the spots where you have things like this, and then like +1 random
Yeah,
Rebel
no, that
units.
seems really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like you can just have like a fantastic opener. Like yeah, there's just the very nice inbuilt synergy with the Leona being double trade and yeah, as Leona and Ezreal just doing so much work. So yeah, like this is a disgusting opener, and then eventually you can even I don't know, you can let stuff like Rel in. Rel is another unit that's like multi-trait in this board with like the Aurelia Leona and the like Vex and stuff like that. So eventually
And
you
the
get to like,
visionary? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So you
okay.
can get to like 4 Sentinel eventually and stuff like that. So yeah, I think he's a fantastic early game unit. Thinking about other units that like, I don't know, I'm not that
What about like
excited.
a Swain or something?
Yeah, no,
Like,
I like Swain a lot as well. I guess like it's hard a
hmm,
little bit. Like some of it is just kind of like playing a lot of games of TFT and like understanding what the strong early game units are, what they do. And like there's no like that's something that I struggled with a lot when I was like learning TFT is someone will be like, someone will say exactly what I said there. I'm like, Ezreal's a really strong early game unit. And
yeah, and
like
that's not apparent to me, right? Like,
exactly, right.
yeah.
And so like understanding, okay, how do I like learn that Ezreal is a strong early game unit? I would say The best ways to do it, one is just like watching really good players. If you watch, like the highest elo players stream and stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
oftentimes they'll just kind of give that information out for free. They'll get an Ezreal from an orb and be like, "Oh my god, I'm so like excited to get Ezreal," and stuff like that. Like you can tell a lot from just watching a lot of good players early game and just seeing what units they're like excited to hold on to. Like conversely,
Right.
if they like sell some units in the early game that you like aren't like that you're like maybe really like powder in the early game and then you end up selling it, then you can be like, oh, that's interesting, like they don't value powder as high as I do, so like that can be really good. The other thing
Oh, okay.
um the other thing that you can do is just pay close attention to your fights and how they play out. This is something that I really recommend is just a lot of people when they play TFT, it's an auto battler. So, they'll build their board and then the fight will start and then they'll kind of like zone out. Or, in the worst case, you got like a YouTube video on the second monitor, you look over the other monitor and you're like, it's what I mean, it's they're fighting, so who cares? But like actually
Yeah.
watching fights, I think is a really really like like super super underrated way to get better at TFT.
Oh, that's cool. I never thought of it that way. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, there's let's see. You played I'm trying to think of what even set was it, but you didn't play that set I think cuz you
I
haven't been
played
playing.
a bit of set 10 and like 11. Let me think. Is 11 Inkborn Fables? I didn't play the Honeymancer set. I think that was like the last one before
Okay.
this.
Let's see. Which version? I'm thinking, well, here I can just pull him over. Did you play with this version of
Yeah.
Silas where he was like Umbral
Yeah, yeah,
something?
yeah, the Umbro. Yeah,
Okay, where he
I
like
played this
dashes
Prime like
in.
a few times. Like
Yeah, yeah.
Trenchcoat was good with this guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was
So yeah, like this version of Silas, four cross Silas, he dashes, slams, deals magic damage, and then does like the
yeah.
swipe. So this is a unit. There are a few units. I'm trying to think. Are there any right now in TFT where like the way, I mean, there are certainly some. The way some units work is like not super intuitive, or there will be kind of like hidden portions of their kit that like it's not really made obvious in their spell description, but it is a part of how they function. As far as units, this set, I don't think there's any that there's like a really good
Is there
example
like
of.
Nico in like set 9? Uh
Which version of Nico is that? Set
like
9?
people would do like there was like the Ishtal like
Mm-hmm.
X, and then people would go if it was like ice or earth, people would go like Nico carry. I
Right.
think she's like a 2-star.
Yeah, yeah, no, I remember that version of Nico. Yeah, I mean,
I don't
some,
know. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too sure.
or I guess, okay, I mean, another example that is really weird. They're actually nerfing him to be like this next patch,
Oh, I
but
still haven't figured out how what Jace does exactly. He's a little confusing for me.
yeah, so like he summons the Hexforge, and then this is actually showing his other ability, but you can place it on frontline or backline. If Jace is frontline, then this Hexforge gives your team a shield, and if he's backline, he
Uh-huh.
gives your team attack speed.
Like
He gives
attack
like
speed?
he gives
Yeah.
like the 3 units closest to it attack speed. What people realized about Jace, which actually if you read his spell ability, like isn't very obvious, is that when the Hexforge dies, when he casts, he like resummons it. The way his ability reads, it sounds like he would just cast and resummon it, but he casts, resummons it, and then it still does its ability, even if it was already dead. Like if it's dead, it'll respawn and then give attack speed. Where like the way that the ability reads, it sounds like he would just respawn it, and then it has to be alive to give the attack speed. But it doesn't actually. Like if it's dead, he casts, it'll respawn and give your team attack speed. So you saw like a lot of people this patch really really prefer frontline on the Hexgate because not only is it a free frontliner that you can respawn, but you still get the full value out of the ability. So like stuff like that, that it's like, yeah, this actually Jace is actually like the perfect
That's really
example.
cool.
Yeah, so
Okay, I
like
never thought about that. Yeah.
yeah, and that's like it's not even very obvious reading the unit's ability. Like honestly, if you read the unit's ability, you might kind of not get that sense. The example that I was going to bring up with Silas is Silas has kind of like a little bit of like hidden AI where if he's in a clump, he actually just doesn't dash. He doesn't do this first part of his ability. He just does the swipe around him. That's not in the ability. Like he just Yeah, and the idea is, well, if your Silas is around a bunch of units, you want him to just hit as many units as possible. So he just does this part. I mean, he still like does the magic damage and heals, but he doesn't do the dash part.
Oh,
And so people, realize that they realize that if you put Silas in a spot where he just dashes in the middle of the board, he's kind of like maximizing his DPS. And I don't know, the reason why I always talk about watching fights is at the time. It's a player named Mismatch Socks. I don't know how much you follow, like competitive TFT. Or I
I've
think
heard of them. I don't know too much about
yeah.
them though.
He's a really good player. He was one of the first like great NA players. Like set like 2, I feel like he like really popped. And I didn't really pay that much attention to TFT in set 2. I only really got
Hmm.
back into it set like 5 and like 5.5. But I know like I remember like casually watching a little bit of TFT stuff and people like this Sox guy is really really good. But
Okay.
yeah, people were kind of like asking like, oh, how are you like so good at the game? Because he had won like regionals in North America, and he also I don't know how this guy does it because he has a real full-time job. He's like some kind of like software engineer like type person. I don't know exactly, and he also has
Uh-huh.
like a kid. I think he has 2 kids now. I don't know
Oh, damn.
how he has
That's
enough
really
time,
impressive.
yeah, to be
That's
good
like
at
two
TFT.
full-time jobs. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And so they asked it like, "How are you so good at TFT?" And I don't know, TFT players are always so nonchalant. But he was like, "Oh, I just watch the fights. I think most people don't watch the fights." And like that's how he learned this Silas thing, where it doesn't actually say that if he's in a big clump, then he doesn't dash, but he learned that, and you can play around that. Same thing about Jace. If you watch the fight, you'll realize that the Hex Gate is respawning and then it's providing attack speed to the units. If you don't watch the fights, then you aren't actually going to realize that, and you're going to, maybe position differently because you don't realize that. So, all of that to say, watching fights, I think, is like one of the most underrated ways to gain knowledge in TFT, to get better, to understand
Yeah.
how strong units
Okay.
are, to understand how units work in general. And so I think that's a great way where, like we're talking about, if you are trying to figure out like what 3 costs really perform well, just watch, pay attention when you see those 3 costs in your game, and when you when you see them, see how well they perform, and if they perform really well, then then you know that they're strong, and then that you can be interested in playing around them in the early game. So yeah, I think this
I
all
kind of have a
actually,
question on that, like a
yeah,
little bit. I feel
for sure.
like almost all of them see like when I face them, almost all of them seem like they perform reasonably, except like maybe TF
Hmm.
and like Nunu, or
Hmm.
let me think. I'm not sure what Nunu actually, but like for example, like Rennie like gets really strong, right? She has items like uh Ezreal with category like the category 6 seems pretty strong.
Oh yeah.
Uh yeah, I don't know. Everything that's like level 3 seems like not bad, right? Like it's not like clear that any of them are terrible except maybe TF. And I'm
Yeah.
not even sure that's true.
Yeah, I mean, TF is kind of synergy dependent, but he can be really good in situations. I mean, I think your intuition is pretty reasonable. I don't know. After the nerfs to like Scar early on in the set, I'm really not that big of
Oh,
a fan of Scar. I just like
okay.
he had that place in like the Scar Kog'Maw comp, but now like you're really playing
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
Kog'Maw Blitzcrank type stuff. So I feel like
Sure.
this is like a much better pair now. So I feel like he's kind of like I don't know. You don't have a good spot, like a good place to play him, and he just doesn't. I don't know. Like I'm not that excited to play like a watcher early game. But yeah, I mean, outside
Sure.
of that, I mean, in general, 3 costs should be pretty good in the early game. It's just figuring out which ones actually like make sense on your board. I mean, yeah, it's not like there's no 3 costs that I'm like I would never play this unit.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
all they all have their spots where you would want to play them, but it's just kind of like understanding the relative value of them. Because your question was, like how do you ever like make 10? And like for example, like you're talking about like Nunu, not that amazing. He's got like niche, if you can get experiment in for him, he's quite good. Scar
Mhm.
also I'm not that excited for. So, conversely, if I had 1 gold and like this is my bench or something, I feel, perfectly fine making 10 gold here. We're not actually like losing out on that much stuff. I guess you have like the Vex here to make it even worse. I guess that's scrap, but it's not amazing.
Uh-huh.
Like I would feel fine selling like these units. Maybe here. How do I what would the worst pair be? I guess like singed here or something. But yeah,
Okay.
like units that don't have a ton of synergy. Um, and they're units that I'm not that excited about. I would feel much better about if I was 1 gold just selling this stuff and making 9. And then like, imagine we have like, I don't know, just like a Draven pair sitting over here and we just like make gold. Or maybe we like, maybe it's something like I don't know, like this, and we sell this entire right side here, make 10 gold if we're holding 1, and then hold on to like Draven pair Violet, and
Oh,
like we're pretty happy.
yeah, that seems really reasonable. Like, I mean, I feel like I'll do the same thing here. So,
hmm So yeah, like I think it's about like I said earlier, it's about committing to that early comp. If you
yeah.
like in this spot, it's saying like, okay, you know what? None of these units really synergize that much. I have Draven pair Violets. Like worst case scenario, like you were talking about, I can just play Lost Streak with this board, maybe play Family, or maybe I just play a solid Pit Fighter early game and it's fine. So
Hmm.
that's how I would think about it. Uh,
Okay.
okay, cool. Any other questions on
Makes
that?
sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Seems really reasonable.
Awesome. All right. So now we talked a little bit about econ, and we'll definitely talk about more about it and just stuff like that later. But the next thing I want to talk about is one of the main ways you're spending your econ, which is rolling. So I'm kind of breaking this down into reroll and rolling for upgrades because they are very, very different in just kind of how you approach them. Um,
Hmm.
so reroll. Obviously, this is the idea of just rolling for a specific 3 stars so it can be the core of your comp. Core of your comp, I think, is an important factor here because everything, all of the features of reroll and how reroll functions differently from like 4 cost centric TFT are because of the fact that the units are the core of your comp. So, for example, like we were talking a little bit about this, like I mean, even the
Like the
Kog'Maw.
cog star. Yeah.
Yeah. This like Cog Scar comp, I think, when this comp was good, I think was a perfect example because at the end of the day, this comp was the Cog Scar comp. Like you were playing all of these other units that like really, aren't doing much. Zeri, I mean, eventually sometimes you can hit Zeri 3, but oftentimes she's unitemized for a long time. Mumu, Darius, Vladimir, like none of these units are actually like really doing anything. It's just the Kog'Maw and
Yeah.
Scar show. And
Okay.
because so much of the power is concentrated in those units, having really really good items for those units, like perfect items, ideally, is more important. Compare this to I think the perfect reverse example is something like an emissary comp. So like you have this board, and there's just like so many different units that you can itemize. If you have AP items, they can go on Nami. If you have AD items, they can go onto Corki, or AD Bruiser items can go on Vessel and Vi. Tank items, they go on Garen, they can go on Elise. Like there's so
Hmm.
many, and there's other stuff that you can fit in on this board. You can fit stuff like Swain. You can fit stuff like Gangplank. You can fit stuff like the
You
Vladimir.
do
Like
like killerists or right?
hmm
Like,
yeah.
yeah,
Like
there's a
there's
lot of
so
flex here.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many different units you can itemize. And so if I have just okay items on Corki, if I have Deathblade Gwynsu, like these are fine. These are not, perfect items on Corki, but they're good enough. And I'm fine with that because I can kind of pick up the slack somewhere else and have like really, really good items on Garen. Or maybe I just, because the power is so spread out in all of these other units, I don't really care that I have perfect items here because maybe I just have a lot of power in like the fact that I have like an Ambessa 2, I don't know, a Thief's Glove on her or something. But it's just because the power level is so much more spread out, there's all these different units that can carry the comp. You feel a lot better about itemizing units just kind of like whatever in this comp, whereas this comp you really wanted like your perfect items onto Kog'Maw. It's changed a little bit, but originally it was stuff like Archangels, Gwynsu's Gunblade. Now it's even more just like as much attack speed as possible, but even stuff like Trojan is fine. But
Hmm.
like just having a really good example of this is like the Renata comp, where like the Renata comp like you really really want
Like really good
Shojin.
items on
Yeah,
like Renata, right?
Shojin, Nashers,
And Archangel?
Archangels. Yeah, is
Yeah.
is what pretty much everyone does, and it's just like this is a Renata with these 3 items, and hitting Renata 3 and hitting some like frontline 3, like Singe 3 and stuff like that. Like you're playing for like top 2, top 1. If you have Renata with like just okay items, your game becomes a lot harder. And there's something like I don't want you to take away from this that I always have to have perfect items because I think that's a mistake that a lot of people fall into. But in
Hmm.
general, reroll cares more about items than fast state is the idea. The other stuff to talk about with reroll. I don't think forcing reroll unless it's a really really broken comp is good. In general, this set there aren't that many reroll comps that are so broken that I would force them. You need to have like a few of these factors, and so either that's high rolling some of the units, or having perfect items. If I start the game with, an Archangels and, a Giant's Belt, then okay, then I can really think about maybe playing this Renata angle. Even if I don't have Renata, maybe I have like Singe 2 and a Vex 2, and I play around the Vex, hold the items, eventually I get to Renata.
Yeah.
Augments, same idea, is that you want to concentrate power in those units, whether that's like an item augment that allows you, people take the like radiant Pandora's items or radiant like relics and stuff like that tend to be better in reroll comps because you're concentrating all of your power from that augment in that one unit. And then the last piece is uncontested. A lot of people ask like, what do I do when I'm contested playing reroll? And there are a couple of things you can do, but I think the first step is to try to avoid that situation ever happening in the first place.
Hmm.
And so the way to do that is when you decide that you're playing a reroll comp, when you kind of commit yourself to a reroll comp, before you actively do that, I say just do a full scout of the lobby, see where everybody's at. Um,
Yeah.
and like sometimes that will just you'll immediately see I'm trying to play Urgot reroll, and wait a minute, there's a guy with an Urgot 2 right now, and he's itemized. He is probably playing Urgot reroll. Okay, I'm gonna pivot and play something else. It can also be
Hmm.
though, like, okay, that guy maybe like he's got a Singe 2. He has no Renatas, but oh, he has a Shojin Nashor slammed. Like he actually has pretty decent chance of playing Renata this game. Okay, so maybe I'll stay away from that comp. So items are another big
Yeah.
factor. And then the other big thing to scout for is bench. Sometimes people will play a board, but if you just look at the units they're holding on their bench, you can gain a lot of information about what they are thinking about playing in that spot. So those are like the ways that you can scout and stay away from being contested. Um, if you are contested, it's there's basically two things you can do. One, you can play more aggressive than the other player, roll before them, and try to hit before them. So
Uh-huh.
if you're playing a 2-cost reroll comp and it's like stage 3, like right after carousel, and you've got like 50, 60 gold, and you have like 3 Tristanas, you can say, you know what, I'm just gonna roll down really deep here. I'm gonna roll down to like 10 or 20 gold, and hopefully I pick up like 6 or like 4 or 5 Tristanas on the way down. And if I pick up that many, then okay, at that point I'm at like 7 or 8 Tristanas, or like 8 or 9 Tristanas. And the other player who's contesting, maybe they're holding 4. All of a sudden, it's really hard for them to hit, and it's easier for you to find the last one. So that's one way you can do it. If you are in enough of an economic spot where you can roll before them, that's something that you can do, and just be really, really aggressive with your gold. If you can't do that, then the other option is just push levels. And either pivot completely, or if you're committed to the comp in some way, then you can just push levels and wait for the other player to die. That's something you can do with like 3-cost reroll. If you're say like Kog'Maw reroll, you can just push level 8, sit on level 8 for a while, and hopefully, if you're stronger, like with that power spike of going 8, and the other person is stuck not hitting, if you both can't hit, then that player will eventually die, be weaker than you, and then you can roll and hit your Kog'Maw. So I guess it's really 3. It's roll before them, level and wait for them to die, or just pivot completely from that spot. Which, depending on the comp that you've slammed items for or rolled for, it's easier or harder. Some comps easy to pivot out of, some harder. Yeah. Once again, I don't know. I yap a lot. I throw a lot at you.
No, that makes a
So
lot of
any
sense.
any questions on any of that stuff?
Um, this all makes sense theoretically. I find
Mm-hmm.
it practically a little bit hard to implement sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like for example, like in the Tristana, like she's a 2-cost reroll, right? Like you want to
Mm-hmm.
roll like level 6,
Mm-hmm.
and theoretically, like if you and the other person are like the same amount of gold, like you hit level 6 at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you would probably like if you like roll more aggressively, you'll still kind of like be rolling at the same time, at least initially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you kind of get it? Is it like that's kind of a problem still, right? Or like, are you banking on them not rolling aggressively? Like they slow roll at like level 6.
Yeah, I think a lot of
Does
people.
that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
Or I
yeah.
don't know.
I mean, yeah, but I guess there are a few factors. One is that, TFT is not a symmetrical game. If
Sure.
you are playing, Tristana reroll and you have a really good opener and you like 5 win streak, you are going to be way richer than the other player, which is another thing that you can kind of take into account. That's, I guess, like the piece that maybe I should stress more is that, like, if you see yourself and you're like, okay, I'm 50 gold and the person contesting me is 30 gold, I actually
Mhm.
now have that advantage. I can reroll now and get up to like 6 Tristanas. They're still sitting on like 3 or 4 Tristanas, and now it's really hard for them to play the game. So that's one thing in general in TFT is you can evaluate whenever you're thinking about playing contested. Because this is something that I didn't realize. Um,
Yeah.
is that like if you're in a really good if you're 20, 30 gold above the person who's contesting you, or if you have perfect items and they have just okay items, it can be fine to play contested. This is more for like 4 cost comps.
Mhm.
But if you know that you're richer than the other person, that once again it allows you to roll before them. So like say we're playing 4 cost reroll, or not 4 cost reroll, but 4 cost comp, and we're trying to
Uh-huh.
play around like a dominators board, and so we're looking for units like this. Like these are the big 4 cost units that we're looking for, and some
Mhm.
other 5 costs and stuff as well. But I already have, say, maybe I have like a Shojin Nashers slammed onto like a Ziggs. Maybe those are my items because these are really, really nice items in this comp. So I have these items slammed onto a Ziggs too. I've been win streaking. I have a Ziggs too. I realize that I'm really, really rich. I know that the other player wants to roll for this comp as well, but they're not as wealthy as me. I can make the call to roll at 4-1 before they're going to roll, because they're very likely going to roll at 4-2 if they aren't super, super rich. I can just say, you know what, I'm going to roll the round before them. I'm going to level at 4-1 and, say I have 40, 50 gold at that point because I'm really, really rich. I roll down, I hit, Silco 2, and like I have a Mundo pair, a Garen pair. I don't know, I hit like Elise 2 and like Silco 2 and like a Garen and a Mundo, and like great, awesome. Like
Mhm.
we rolled ahead of the other person, we moved the items over, and then the spot feels really good. So the reason that you're able to do this is because you scouted them and realized, okay, I'm contested, but maybe they're only gone to 1 Silco at this point in the game because I rolled ahead of them. If you find yourself contested and you're low econ, then you kind of have to figure out what your game plan is going to be. Maybe you say,
Okay, that
okay,
makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe you say, okay, I'm actually poorer than this person who's contesting me. They're going to hit before me, so I have a few options. If my items are so good that I think they'll be good enough on a Silco 1, maybe I still play this and I just say, okay, I'll try to live on a Silco 1. Or maybe you just say, you know what, okay, whatever. These items aren't perfect on Zoe, but they're good enough. I'll play around Zoe. No one else is trying to play around Zoe. Is a way you can think about it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought of a slightly different question, I guess.
Yeah.
So I been playing like the Aurelia hero augment like for a couple games recently, and it goes with Rebel a lot of the time,
Hmm.
right? Like you kind of go like Aurelia, and then you could like go with Rebel, right? Like
Yeah.
it kind of fits in, I feel.
Hmm.
And the thing that's interesting for me is like Rebel wants like a fast kind of like eight, right? Right? Like you
Hmm.
want to like get like higher cost units like Jinx and like Alawi and stuff
Yes.
and Zoe, and like you don't really get that like level 5, for example, right? Like
Hmm.
when you're like re-rolling for Aurelias.
Right.
So like there's kind of like I don't know if the word contradiction is not quite the right word,
Hmm.
but like there's like a tension between like what the comp kind of wants. Like you want to stay like low level to get like Aurelia 3, and then like you also kind of like want to like level pretty fast. Like, and I have trouble with that. Like
Hmm.
sometimes I don't hit like Aurelia 3, I feel like on time.
Hmm.
And then like I also am not able to um get high level in that case too, right? Because I use a lot of gold.
Right.
Does that
Yeah.
kind of make sense of the problem? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not
For
sure if
sure.
that's like a common problem.
No, yeah. I mean, another example is like family reroll type stuff, where like eventually you want to get to like vertical pit fighter, you want to make it to stuff like Savika and to Vi,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but like you're spending so much of your gold rolling on level 4 and level 5 that it takes a while to get to these. I think what you're talking about, a few things. One, it's just that sometimes if you feel like you're not hitting on like the correct interval on like the tempo that you feel like you should be hitting on. um One concept could be that you've just decided to play the comp. Maybe you take the Irelia Hero Augment and you start with 0 Irelias. Well, then it's a lot harder to hit Irelia 3, same way. Like maybe we decide to
Okay.
play like
I
Violet
do that
Reroll.
sometimes. Maybe I should stop doing
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that, on average, then you're going to be hitting a lot later. Same thing as like
Yeah.
if we decide
Okay.
to commit to Violet Reroll with like one Violet, you get to end of stage 2 and you still only have one Violet. well, it's going to take a lot longer to hit because,
Okay, sure.
obviously we haven't amassed as many. The other thing to kind of understand is just kind of like the power curve of your comp. So I was just doing this in another session. I think I still have it drawn. Okay, it's kind of fun to draw it in Paint though. Maybe I'll redraw it. I can probably do a better drawing.
Okay.
Um, but here, let
So I
me.
love drawing.
Yeah, no, I've started. I see all these people do this. It's pretty fun. Okay, so we have stage up here. Oh yeah, this is looking even better. Stage 4, 5, 6, eventually 7 maybe. So it's gonna be a graph, and this axis is stage, like game time, and this axis is like board strength. Um, so yeah, like this is how strong your board is. Um, Understanding kind of like the power curve of your comp, like how your comp gets stronger across the course of the game, I think is really, really, really important. So like for example, in red here, let's do like this one cost reroll, like a family type reroll comp. Like most comps, you're kind of about the same as most comps. You get like a little bit stronger during stage 2. You hit some upgrades or something. You're mostly kind of chilling here. 3-1, like right at the start of stage 3. This is when you power spike a lot because you're rolling for 2-star units. And then like
Hmm.
once again, you level off a bit, level a bit. You're like basically here until like early stage 4. Yeah, honestly, let's bring this up to like just early stage 4, and then you hit the rest of your 3 stars. You spike pretty hard, and then you kind of like level off for the rest of the game. So this is like your
Yeah.
your one cost real curve, and then compare that to something like a standard like 4 cost curve. You kind of have the same like stage 2, like you're finding like upgrades and stuff like that. But this curve like doesn't spike as much as stage 3 because they're not rolling at all. So it's like curving up kind of a similar way. It doesn't really spike as much at stage 4. It's just kind of like a steady line upward, and then like eventually here it kind of like levels off here because you're not
Yeah.
finding that many upgrades at the end of the game. And so the thing to pay attention to is kind of like the difference between these curves here. This here, and this here. So when you're playing one cost reroll, you really want to take advantage of the fact that you are going to be stronger than most people early stage 3 after you've hit a lot of your 2 stars, and then when you hit the rest of your 3 stars, this other big spike. Um,
Oh, yeah, that
and
makes sense.
and what you need to also keep in mind is that late game, you are going to get out capped as just a one cost reroll board. Like it's pretty hard, unless one cost reroll is really, really broken, to win lobby with one cost reroll because other people, they can hit their 6 cost units, they can hit their 2-star 5 cost and stuff like that. And in general,
Hmm.
one cost reroll is just going to get outscaled in the late game, by those type of boards. So when you're playing one cost reroll, it's just important to be as strong as possible during these rounds. This is why you'll often see people roll at 3-1 on level 4, and sometimes you'll even see people roll deeper. I think something that a trap that so many TFT players fall into is just never dipping below 50 gold. But like if you're playing family reroll and maybe you found your Violet 2 at 3-1, and you're exactly 50 gold, and you have Violet 2, and then you're sitting on like Draven. Maybe you have a Darius 2 as well. But yeah, you're Draven, Vander, sitting on your bench here, and then like you have a powder. Oftentimes, like I would absolutely just dip to 40 gold here to try to find Draven 2 and Vander 2, because being as strong as possible this stage is really, really important. Itemization is another factor.
Oh.
Making sure that you have enough items for your Vi is really important, because remember, we're like, this is going to be our strongest point in the game, and understanding when your strongest point in the game is really, really crucial. So for one cost rerolls, it is this stage 3, and then like when you hit your 3 stars, like stage 4, and then you start to fall off later, stage 5, 6, 7, that kind of stuff. 2 cost reroll. Let's see if we can do that in like purple. Like 2 cost reroll is once again, you all kind of have a similar early game, but it spikes even harder usually at the round after. So like this is 3-1, this would be 3-2. 2 cost reroll spikes really, really hard because you aren't only hitting, the violet board is hitting, violet 2, Darius 2. The 2 cost reroll board is hitting stuff like Urgot 2, Tristana 2. These units are just going to be, stronger than 2-star 1
Yeah,
costs.
yeah.
So you spike even harder 3-2, level off a bit, level off a bit, and then you also spike once again like a bit later than this board because you're not hitting your 3 stars maybe until like mid stage 4 or something. So then you spike up again like a bit later there, and then once again you kind of level off, still weaker than the 4 cost comp, but stronger than the 1 cost comp in general. And so for the 2 cost reroll comp, okay, you really want to then take advantage of like this space here where you're stronger than basically everybody. So just understanding when your comp spikes. This is why I think not that many kind of like players below, I would say like master tier, do this, but I think it's really, really important is for 2 cost. The 3-2 roll down, I think, is quite important. Like you will see
Hmm.
really, really good players on 3-2 when they're playing 2 cost reroll. Just roll it down to like 10 gold to find Urgot 2,
Oh,
Tristana 2,
wow.
to
Okay.
find the whole board so that you are just strong enough that you can win out the rest of the stage. And
Uh-huh.
this becomes more important the higher elo you go, because people are playing stronger boards at that point. So if you are playing greedy and you aren't, hitting all this stuff, if you're, Trist 1 and, like Urgot, maybe you hit Urgot 2, but you're stuck on Trist 1 and you haven't hit Nunu. So, you're some board like this, you will, and, 2 other, random units, I don't know, just like, yeah, some bruisers or something. If you're a board like this, maybe in like plat, diamond, like emerald type stuff, you can still win a lot of fights. If you're playing in like challenger lobbies, this board will still lose to people who are playing really good boards, and so that's why you need to roll down, you need to get the experiment in, and that kind of stuff. And with 1 cost reroll, like we talked, spiking really hard 3-1. So just understanding the power curve of your comp. So yeah, like the 1 cost, it's more like 3-1. 3 cost, which I don't have a curve for here,
Wait, you
but
rolled down a 3-2 for 2 cost reroll?
yes. Yeah. You go
Wait,
6.
you get to level 6 by then?
Yep. Yeah. 6 at 3-2. And
Oh,
then
is that like
roll.
a normal interval?
Yes. I have a
Uh-huh.
page. We can honestly skip to it to talk a little bit about it. What is
Yeah.
it? This? Okay. This is kind of like my
Oh.
my general leveling flow. And so these ones in bold, these are what I would consider like the defaults um nowadays in TFT. And so yeah, I would say the default level 6 is 3-2. The majority of my games I'm going level 6 at 3-2. There's some games where you don't go 6 at 3-2, like super passive would be like after a carousel like 3-5 or something. And obviously like these aggressive intervals are when you either have a lot of gold or you want to play for board strength. But these are like the general, and I think a lot of people don't abide by this, especially like below master tier. Like I really like going 5 at 2-5. You just get, if you are at all potentially playing for a win streak, I would go 5 at 2-5. I think a lot of people,
Okay.
they'll like win the first 3 fights and still not go 5 at 2-5, even though it's really cheap. I mean, it's like an even interval to level. You get access to level 5 shops, so you can start finding 4 costs and stuff like that. So yeah, I really like going 5 at 2-5. But yeah, these are what I would say are the kind of like general, like average leveling thresholds. And if you're playing passive, you can do kind of like the later ones. If you're playing really aggressive, you can do the other ones. But yeah, 6
Oh,
at
that's cool. Okay.
yeah. I wonder. I don't think I have. Maybe no. I don't think I was gonna see if I have a VOD of
Uh-huh.
myself playing 3 cost reroll, but I think the one that I did, I natural Tristu Urgot 2 before 3-2, so I didn't even
Not
have to roll
bad.
for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I've seen people roll down to like 32, like for a
mhm,
1 cost reroll, like
yes.
I think at 3-1?
Mhm.
Like whichever one is right after the Krugs, right? Like
Yes. Yeah, 3-1 right
um
after Krugs.
yeah, that's 3-1. Yeah. Like, is there a reason like why they roll down that far? Like how you decide when to stop rolling? Or is that like
So
pretty situational?
I mean, it is situational based upon the units that you hit.
Yeah.
But the other thing to consider, like the 32, or not 32, but 32 number. So like the idea is, you can kind of think about how much gold you are guaranteed going to generate over the next couple of rounds.
Yeah.
So like 32 gold, for example, you're always like the way that gold works in TFT is you always get five from just like your base interest after the first two rounds. You get
Oh, so you're
five.
guaranteed 40 next round,
Well,
right? And then
yeah, you get five gold every round, and then you
Mhm.
get 3 gold from interest, so you're guaranteed 40 here. I think a lot of people will even stop on like 30, because yeah, it's 32, and then if you lose, because like the idea is 5 gold from interest, 3 gold from or yeah, 5 gold from base econ, 3 gold from interest, so up to 40. And then if you have no streak, yeah,
Oh,
that's the idea. Is that the next
so it's
round after this,
34, right?
the
Like,
well, so the idea is next round you're gonna be 40
yeah.
gold, right? You're making
Oh,
five, and
4.
you're
Oh,
making
yeah, 5 plus
four,
4.
and
So
then
33 is like guaranteed 50 and like
well, the thing about 32 is actually
uh-huh.
you will, because there's the other portion of it which is streak gold,
Oh, right. Okay, okay.
and so the only situation in which you would like the lowest gold that you will ever make in streak gold is no win streak, loss, because you'll get 1 gold from getting the second loss here. So if you're at 32 gold here, the least gold that you can ever get is loss here, and then you get 0 streak gold here, and then you get 1 streak gold here, so you go up to 50. That's the idea behind 32
Oh.
is you're guaranteed to get up to 50. The only caveat is that that doesn't account for buying units. If you're playing reroll, maybe you get a violet in your shop and so you want to buy, but it also doesn't account for, like we're talking about streak gold. If you're on like, a big lose streak, you're loss, then all of a sudden, you're up to like 52, 53 gold. Or I guess, yeah, it'd be like 51 or 52 gold. Similarly, if you're winning. And also, every fight that you win, you get every win is 1 gold as well. You just get a gold
Mhm.
for winning. And so, if you win either of these fights, say this is win and this is loss, then you still actually only get the 1 gold because you have no streak here. But then you're also guaranteed that 1 gold because you won a fight. But imagine if you had won the previous fight and you're like win, then you're getting a gold here, you're getting a gold here, you're getting streak gold as well. Then you end up being like 52, 53 gold. So
Yeah.
that's the idea behind 32 though, is that in 2 rounds you're guaranteed to get back up to 50 gold. That's the reasoning why people stop there. Because if you dip down to 30 gold, then you're not going to make your 40 gold threshold unless you have a good streak, and then you're not going to make your 50 gold threshold as well. So you actually lose out on a decent amount of econ.
Oh, that's really inventive. That's like
Yeah,
pretty deep actually.
yeah, no, it's
Okay,
it's
that makes sense.
it's pretty cool. Yeah, the first time I saw like the 32 number, I was like, oh, that's so smart. Like thinking about
Yeah,
not
that's
only your
that's really
current,
intelligent.
yeah,
Yeah.
econ, but your future econ thresholds. It's very nice. Um, okay, awesome. So I don't even remember where we were. Oh yeah, we were on reroll.
Yeah, the reroll.
Yeah. Let's see. So that's a reroll. This is a chart of the all of the percent odds of hitting different unit costs at different levels. The main idea behind this is just reroll at the level that you have the highest odds. So if you're playing 2-cost reroll, you want to level reroll on 6. 3-cost reroll, you want to level reroll on 7. Um,
Mhm.
I've just seen some people do some weird stuff where they push 7, and like sometimes it can make sense. Like the only one of the comps that it makes sense in is like Automata, because you have like Nocturne, you have this. This comp you can roll on 7 for because you're rolling for 3 costs and 2 costs. So you can find that on
Yeah.
7. Kind of similar is like the Renata comp as well, where it's like it's kind of a 2-cost reroll comp, but it's also kind of a 1-cost reroll comp. So these like kind of
Right, because you have a
comps
bunch of
where
sentinels, right?
yeah,
That look like
exactly. You have
and
like all of this
X
stuff to
Morgana.
roll
Yeah.
for. And so like you're rolling for 1 cost and 2 costs. So like that comp, then you can roll like level 5, level 4, that kind of stuff you're fine with.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Does this make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
This seems really reasonable.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. The next way to reroll and just to use your econ is rolling for upgrades. Rolling for upgrades, I think, is a pretty there's no like hard rule of just like always roll this much or always roll this little. Rolling too much or too little can really hurt you, though. If you roll too little, maybe you take too much damage. If you roll too much, maybe you can't push levels that you otherwise would be. I'm always trying to think about rolling until my board is stable, and that just means
Uh-huh.
being able to win some fights. It does depend on like your HP. Obviously, if you're like really low HP, then you need to stabilize the board higher or like yeah harder, and conversely the other way. The other big thing that I think is important to think about in terms of like board stability and like that kind of stuff. So like for example, if we are playing into like this like Silco like Dominators type comp here. So, like the units that you two star, I mean, items matter a lot as well, but Morgana here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Yeah, okay. I mean, this can just be. Oh, yeah, I need Cassiopeia, and that's who I'm missing. Okay. Oh yeah, and then just cut you from work. Okay. So Mork. Okay. So this board, I think a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people struggle to understand, like, okay, I'm rolling down here and I hit maybe, and honestly, let's get the Mundo for Ziggs because that's a more realistic example of like early game, or like stage 4, like kind of decent spot.
Mm-hmm.
So like say I roll down here, and there's a lot of different permutations of what I could actually hit because maybe like I always have the Morg 2 and maybe I have like Vlad 2 always. These units like matter a little bit, but not so much. But maybe I'm rolling down and I hit say like a Cassiopeia 2, I get stuck on Silco 1, and I hit like a Ziggs 2. And like have a pretty bad roll down, and like this is just all that I end up on. The big concept that I think is really important in deciding if your board is like strong enough, if you're stable, is having enough damage and having enough like time for your board. And time usually comes from frontline. You can also think of things like CC as time. Like for example, Victor is in some ways frontline because he stuns the entire board. He buys time for your units to deal damage, as long as he can obviously like get to his cast. So
Sure.
like
Sure.
units that CC are in some ways like I mean, something like Elise is very obvious. She's buying time for your board. She's stunning everybody. And
Yeah.
so this board, I feel really really bad about like stage 4 because we just don't really have a front line. All of our units are 1-starred. All of a sudden, if this Blitzcrank is 2, I feel a lot better. Or if we hit like Garen 2, I feel like way better because now I have a 2-star frontline and a 2-star backliner, and it's also like kind of like the required unit scales with how far you get into the game. And so like into stage 4, the standard is kind of like a 2-star 3 cost. I guess the way that it kind of goes relatively straightforward is like so like stage 2, 3, 4, 5, eventually 6. It's just kind of, I guess it's pretty straightforward, but it's just kind of like the stage -1 is like the kind of like standard strong 2-star carry. So stage 2, if you have a 2-star 1 cost, then like you feel pretty good. And then like stage 3, if you have a 2-star 2 cost, you feel really good. Stage 4, if you have a 2-star 3 cost, you tend to feel pretty good. Once you get to stage 5, a 2-star 4 cost is like really what you need to get. And this is more like at the start of the stage. So like 5-1, 4-1, 3-1, 2-1. So
Mm-hmm.
like here, if this is stage 4, I feel pretty good. If this is like 4-2, I have a 2-star 4 cost, which is like ahead of the curve, I would say, and a 2-star 3 cost. And obviously, like once you get later, like when you get more towards the end of stage 4, you're getting closer to like stage 5. So it's becoming like more and more people are hitting their 2-star 4 cost. So like this is like where everybody needs it, but maybe some people hit it here, and maybe some people hit it around here. And so the sooner you hit it, the stronger you're going to be, the more that you can win fights. But that's another that like very often people ask me like, oh, you went like fast 9 in this spot, and like I didn't think you could. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I have a 2-star frontline, I have a 2-star backliner. I'm pretty happy with it. And maybe this board's good enough and it gets me to 5-1 and I'm like 60 gold, and I say, you know what? I could go 9 here, but I'm actually not comfortable going 9 here. So you know what? I'm 60 gold here. I'm just going to roll down and pick up a Silco 2. And then, okay, now that I have Silco 2, I'm going to move whatever items. Maybe I had these items in Cassiopeia, move the items over to Silco. Boom, I'm going to play this board. And now I'm going to carry this to 9. And maybe I'm like 40 gold. And maybe then I get to 9, like middle of stage 5 or something, like 5 or
Oh.
something like that. So yeah, I would just say like hitting these 2-star units when you can, when it is in line with the stage is really important. You can skip some of the stuff if it means that you can play for better stuff later. So for example, if you had a 2-star 1 cost, like very often you can like carry this 2-star 1 cost into stage 3. Say you have like
Hmm.
a 2-star Maddie, and she's really really strong stage 2. You play around her, you get to stage 3, and she starts to fall off a bit, but it's not so much that like you're losing every fight. Once again, it comes back to the idea of stable. Maybe you win like 3 fights and lose 2 fights
Hmm.
this stage. Then you say, okay, that's good enough. Now I get to stage 4. Now Maddie's really fallen off, but because I didn't spend a bunch of gold stage 3, I level at 4-2, and I move my items over to like a Twitch 2-star, and then all of a sudden, like I'm once again ahead of the curve. So that's another way that you can kind of like think about it. It's like you don't have to be ahead of the curve the entire game, but you kind of have to have a plan for like, okay, Maddie's good enough for now, but eventually I need to, like maybe I skip kind of stage 3, but I need to get strong stage 4. So yeah, does that make sense,
Yeah,
man?
that seems really reasonable. Yeah, like it's just like a lobby tempo kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like your own kind of position relative to that.
Yep, exactly.
And
And
if
this,
it's like a prismatic lobby, like
yep,
it's a little bit faster.
exactly. Prismatic
Yeah,
lobby, like Scuttle Puddle, Crab Rave type stuff, will
yeah,
speed this up. So yeah, all of this like bottom half of everything just kind of gets pulled to the right a bit, or I guess to the left a bit. So
yeah.
you want to have the better stuff earlier. So yeah, that's another really good way to think about it. Is yeah, just relative to the lobby strength. Like okay, I need to hit my Twitch 2 sooner than I normally would have, or maybe I'm weaker early than I would be, than would be fine in a normal lobby.
Yeah,
Um,
this intuitive makes a lot of sense.
okay, awesome. Well, like I said, yeah, we're about at the
And we
time.
did
We're
talk a
we're
lot,
we're a
yeah.
little over time, but yeah, I usually
Oh,
don't make
good,
it through the
yeah.
whole thing, but I've been yapping a lot recently. But I mean, I think we talked about some good stuff. We covered some other stuff. Like I said here, I will send you the presentation so you can just, if you want to, you can peruse through the rest of
Yeah,
it
that'd be
because there's
awesome.
other stuff in there. And if you want to do another session where we cover like the second half of this,
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
fine.
I'll
If
be totally down. Like,
yeah,
do you feel like it would be helpful?
I think it'd be pretty helpful. We could also,
Okay, yeah.
it's yeah, I mean, there's still a decent bit to talk about. So I don't know if you like this kind of session where you like talking
Yeah,
through this
this
kind of
is
stuff and you think it's helpful, we can do that. If you want to, do more sessions and just hop into like VOD reviews, like actual, gameplay, actual like the game itself, then fine with that as well. But yeah, really just whatever works for you.
sweet, dude. Do you recommend bots, I guess, more? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I have some knowledge. Like, I make mistakes though, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm flawed. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think conceptually I have like I mean, I guess everyone thinks they have correct concepts, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
believe I have some correct concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what the best, I guess, like path forward is. Like, do you recommend like more discussion, like theoretically, or do you think like looking at like actual like examples or make decisions like is better?
I think actual examples are very helpful. We could always do like some VODs and
Uh-huh.
then like come back to the second half of this after if you want. But yeah, I think like it's it's one thing to talk about all this and I give some,
Yeah.
like I talked about, some kind of like light rules, stuff like this, but I do
Yeah.
think,
And we went over
obviously,
some examples, right? Yeah.
yeah, but obviously, it's a different thing doing it in person or in, like in the game itself. Yeah, I do
Yeah,
recommend. I do recommend VODs over like live games, like you streaming the game to me, just because
for sure.
it is a hard thing to do. Play the game and talk at the same time, and
Oh yeah,
also you
yeah,
play
yeah.
the
I
game
can
differently
imagine.
because someone's like watching you and stuff. So I just
Yeah.
I completely recommend like having some recordings going in. If you do you have like a software to record VODs?
Yeah, I use OBS,
Okay,
which
yeah.
should be
OBS
totally
OBS works. If OBS is too much work, are you on a PC or a Mac?
I'm on a PC right now.
Uh-huh.
The problem is my PC has a weird aspect ratio on my
Oh, okay.
TFT computer,
Mhm.
so it cuts off. like half of the role icons at the bottom. You can still tell what characters they are.
Oh, okay.
It's just like you can't see their legs.
Okay, I mean, that's fine to be able to
Yeah.
tell what they are. It's a little goofy, but it's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just say
Yeah. That's not too much work.
if you ever like if ever OBS is too much work, Outplayed, um, I can send you the link, but it's basically an app that you can get, and it will just you can set it to auto record all your games. It opens
Oh.
something like this, and you can just go through the entire VOD. So then you don't even have to click record. So it's pretty helpful. Yeah, just because you set it, forget it. You set it to auto record all your games. The only thing is, let me pull up mine. If you do get it, you just have to make sure it's recording the full game,
Yeah.
because oftentimes, like Valorant and these type of games, it's like set to just do highlights.
Oh,
So
there's
you just
highlights? Oh, that's
yeah.
cool. Okay.
So you just want to make sure that you do the full
Full
match
match.
option
Yeah, I
for
got you.
TFT, so that it records the whole game. But yeah, awesome. So yeah, I mean, let me know if you want to do. We can finish this another session. We can do VODs, whatever
Yeah.
works for you. But yeah, nice
Do
talking
you
to
have
you.
packages overall, or like is
Yeah,
it like you do one session at a time?
yeah, I got packages. Yeah, if you go, I
Uh-huh.
think this should bring
The
you.
Metafy website's a little bit cluttered. It's like not the I mean, I find the UI a little bit hard.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. It takes some getting used to. I
Maybe.
think this takes you here. I think if you can see,
Yeah.
yeah. So like if you scroll down, I have bundles. So 4 sessions. I have a huge bundle if you want to get bundles. I have bundles of VOD reviews. The difference between the right and the left is this one we're on a
Oh, the
Discord
one's
call.
live?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
one's
okay,
live.
okay.
This one's not a Discord call. So yeah, I got those two bundles of 4 or bundles of like 12. The idea is like this is like monthly. The other one is like theoretically like if you want to do one every week, this would be like every week for a month, and the other one would be like every week for like an entire set, or however long you want to do it. But at the end of the day, it's just a 4 session bundle or a
Okay,
12
yeah.
session bundle.
Sweet, dude.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll have a look. I think it sounds pretty cool. I'm definitely down to do more. This
Awesome.
was really helpful, man.
Awesome. Well,
All right, William.
I'm happy it's helpful. Yeah, good talking to you. Good meeting you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, and I'll
I'll
send
talk
you
to you
the
soon.